as regular viewers will know, my show has revealed that radical Islamic preachers are on their way to Britain. One of them, Mohammad Hoblos, is banned in the Netherlands and Germany for being too extreme. He's reportedly supported violence carried out by Hamas and urged others to do the same. Mufti Munir is the other one. He is on record spouting anti-Semitic rhetoric and discussing stoning adulterers in graphic detail. We sent the Home Office loads of video clips of these two preachers, so they had all the info. Now, earlier today, Shadow Home Secretary Christys wrote to Yvette Cooper. He said, "I write to ask you to take immediate steps to block the entry of Islamist hate preacher Muhammad Hoblos. Freedom of speech does not walk hand in hand with freedom of extremist Islam. Clerics to come to Britain as well, to come to this country and further their attempts to undermine our society." He's rightly been barred from other countries, including a ban on entering all Schengen zone nations. That was Christys' letter there. Well, I can now announce to you what appears to be a massive victory for GB News and for Britain. We understand that the Home Office will take steps to block Mohammad Hoblos from coming to the UK. I think it's fair to say that this would not have happened if we had not applied massive pressure. So I'll just say that again. It appears that the Home Office will now take steps to block Mohammad Hoblos from coming to the UK. And I will say this as well. Assuming that is correct, then credit where credit is due, Yvette Cooper and the Home Office, I think, have done the right thing. And I think many people and our viewers and listeners will say that they have done the right thing, that if this individual does not come to Britain, that is the right decision. And that appears to be the decision that has been made. But this will no doubt be a blow for at least one of the venues for his tour, where they said they were happy to let him preach there. The Werneth Suite in Manchester, it's called, has been sent all the material from these radical preachers. In fact, I spoke to them on the phone yesterday. They told us yesterday that they would contact the charity who was organising this event, One Ummah, and today they told us that they were prepared for it to go ahead because, quotes, "Oh, it's just about Ramadan." Right, well, it doesn't really matter about that, though, does it? Because it appears that they were going to willfully platform a man who has been banned for extremism in the Netherlands and in Germany and who claimed, reportedly, to support Hamas. The Werneth Suite in Manchester appeared happy to platform a man who reportedly supports violence carried out by Hamas. And that's on them at the end of the day, isn't it? Although it now looks like he won't be there, so there we go. But let's get the thoughts of my panel this evening. We are joined by senior reporter Guido Fawkes, Ellie Wheatley. We've got Tory peer Lord Bailey and former Labour Minister Bill Rammell. Sure, I'll start with you. What do you make of this kind of victory for GB News, in a sense, here, that we appear to have managed to block this Mohammad Hoblos from coming to Britain? What do you think?
There's three things to be said. Firstly, it's a shame that it fell to GB News to get the victory. You would have hoped the Home Office would have been paying attention to these things. The second thing is, of course, we shouldn't have anybody here who might inflame community tensions. We already have enough going on the grounds in the last few years with some of the tensions we've seen. We've literally had riots in the streets, we've had marches, we've had terror attacks and all sorts. So actually, our security services and the Home Office should be on a high alert to ward people off. And the third thing, of course, if we are warding off these radical preachers, as people are calling them, it sends a message. We are not a soft touch, find somewhere else to preach. The reason we are attracting them and we're getting so many homegrown is because we're not challenging them. And the idea that we're a tolerant society is correct, but I think we're moving towards appeasement rather than tolerance. At some point, we need to say to people, if you're going to undermine the fundamentals of our society, we won't have you here. And if you live here already, we will challenge that, and we should be more forthright in that
One
way.
thing that did strike me, Ellie, was that we sent all the clips of this guy and his previous record to all of the venues, OK? And they all seemed perfectly happy to platform him, as far as we could tell, despite knowing this. I think that's a concern.
Yeah. I think that absolutely is a concern, because it's not just the government, it's about society accepting these sort of views. But I would point out that actually it was the Tory government last year that started this task force to tackle extremist preachers, and that's, you know, across the board. It's not just Muslim extremist preachers, etc., from coming into the country. But Labour has remained relatively quiet about that until sort of today, and it's very frustrating to me that it seems that it's only when there is outrage or backlash because a high-profile case such as this one that you guys, have highlighted, is when they go, OK, we will do something about it. What about all the ones that actually haven't been highlighted in the press? And that's a sort of concern. And then, of course, we've also got Angela Rayner setting up the Council on Islamophobia and talking about the definition of anti-Muslim discrimination. So it's all sort of not completely concrete on this, like the Tories were.
I'll just say a couple of things on this before I go to you, Bill, which is one of the reasons why we were made aware here, and I was made aware of this particular case of Mohammad Hoblos, was actually because people reached out on social media to me and I think a couple of other GB News reporters about it. So thank you for that, because this is the kind of thing that flies under the radar. It's advertised. If you just look at the banner of it, it's just advertised as some kind of charity of it. You wouldn't know. But then you look into the people who are doing the talking there and you see it. So thank you very much, because, ultimately, all right, I think us applying pressure has undoubtedly had a sway here, and the Home Office has done the right thing and decided to just, it appears anyway, block this guy from coming to Britain. But that did ultimately start from you at home, getting in touch with me about that. So thank you. But Bill, look, Yvette Cooper, the Home Office, they get a lot of stick on this show, and I think rightly so.
I've heard that, Patrick.
Yeah, absolutely. But credit where credit is due. Yeah. However, whatever the process was that led up to it, ultimately it seems the right decision has been reached.
Absolutely the right decision. And look, I'll actually give some credit to the last Tory government, albeit it was just before the general election. Rishi Sunak set up this task force to monitor people coming from overseas, and if there was a threat to public safety because of their actions or their rhetoric, they won't be allowed into the country. This Labour government carried on that process. It's a quiet process because, you take complaints, you investigate them, you look at the track record of these people, but I think it's the right thing to do. And Hoblos's views are absolutely abhorrent and I think are a perversion of Islam. But your point about the organisations who still were going to platform him, I don't think you can delegate that responsibility to those kind of organisations making those political judgments. Ultimately, it's for the government, and the real dividing line is violence and advocacy of violence, and that's where you need to draw the line.
Well, that's an interesting point, because I think we're going to have a bit of disagreement here.
I have to disagree vehemently. Just be clear, if you run a local venue, your activity has a local impact, and you need to be very aware of that. The one thing I will say in defence of these venues, they may have simply been afraid.
Yeah.
They may have thought this is not worth any. Why would I take this problem on?
True.
I could just let it happen, and it's not my fault. And the other thing about this unit that is now looking at these things, they do need to speak more publicly to send a message. If you're catching criminals but they don't know they're going to be caught, they still engage in the crime. Tell them we are looking for you, and you'll be warding them off.
Yeah, well, we have no idea how many extremist preachers have actually been denied their visas. I was trying to work it out. I mean, maybe there's one or two or 50 or 100, as you say, it's a deterrent.
Yeah, but after you've taken the decision to refuse the visa, yes, publicise it, because it then has a deterrent effect. But, Sean, I come back to this issue of these venues. What you're asking them to do is to take on quasi-political legal responsibility. And
you know someone supports a terrorist organisation.
I'm not. But you're asking them to engage in sophisticated political judgments, and I don't think that's fair.
No, I'm not. All I'm asking them to is look at what it might do locally. That's all I mean. If you run a pub, right, and someone comes to put something in your pub, you'll think to yourself, is this going to cause a punch-up? Better lean back on this one. Same sort of thing. You could do something in your community that could cause years of trouble, or you could just not do it. I'm not asking anybody to take on the role of the police. I'm not asking anybody to take in trouble. They do need to look at their local...
But this is where we run the risk of real double standards. So, for example, there are people who will chant from the river to the sea, Palestine should be free. Now, I disagree with them, but I think they have the right to say that publicly. And a venue has to make a judgment between someone like that and someone who's actually advocating violence, and I don't think they're equipped to do it.
I wouldn't let those people in my venue if they're going to chant anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, look...
So you don't believe in freedom of speech, then, Sean?
I don't believe in disgusting slurs like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Look, in the case of this venue in Manchester, ultimately it seems like the decision should be taken out of their hands anyway, because it appears that Hoblos isn't going to be there. I do absolutely accept your point, by the way, which is that we don't know what goes on behind the scenes there. Maybe they were a bit scared. I don't know, but they were under no doubt as to the rhetoric that this guy's used in the past that has had him banned from a couple of other countries. I do question why they were willing to still let him come, but like I said, it looks like that won't be happening now anyway. So there we go. Right, well, thank you very much. A slightly chaotic start in a way, but we are where we are. So anyway.